all this stuff. They've been caught doing it. The UN's been caught adding sterilants to vaccines, you name it. And now the Atlantic establishment publication reports it like it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, how they're going to force drug you and change your embryos by law under a socialist healthcare system. Death panels are all admitted. They're in the media saying, what's wrong with killing children up to age 3 and old people? And then I see some Coney 2012 promo that they did for having showings of their film about invading Africa and how great the UN is for some just cut-out boogeyman who no one even knows where Africa's at. And they start drooling on there, hopping around like it's Sesame Street, talking to adults like they're 3-year-olds. And then I see adults clicking into the child programming and like getting off on it. Man, I mean, this is hardcore mind control that we're under. And like I said, suddenly there's just wrecks everywhere, people walking out in front of cars, people texting while they're driving. It's one thing to check a text while you're driving. I mean, we're talking about driving, watching videos, driving, just running off the road everywhere, psychopaths. Paul, what is happening to people, man? I mean, how much worse is this going to get?
I think the studies have shown that the internet is literally rewiring people's brains. So if you think about those pus-filled pods that in the Matrix where people are trapped in, that's the equivalent of what we've got today with the ubiquitous nature of wireless internet and text messaging, which is why we get all these stories that you talked about, you know, in the last segment. So we're literally, the brains are being rewired, our attention spans are being reduced, and that's why propaganda is so much more crude and childlike, because that's the most successful form of propaganda, because people don't concentrate, they don't scratch below the surface, they've got tiny attention spans, and that's why they're becoming playthings for the elite.
Well, listen, I want you to come back and cover the article itself, but in the brief time we have here, Paul, I am now watching the propaganda being shown to college students and people, and it's all the same. It's people in Stepford Wife, bright colors, with effeminate men literally prancing around saying, I'm non-threatening, there's no work here, we're having fun, let's have a war. And then and you can see they're all crazed-eyed operatives. It's so crude, but because they're attacking an unconscious jellyfish population of zombies, they're following them. And for those that of us that are awake, it's cartoonish. I mean, it's like, it's insane. I mean, what are the elites going to do? They're going to run around bathing in radiation and GMO too? I mean, just because they're conscious of this, it makes it okay?
I don't know, it's amazing, but I mean, the Coney 2012 thing, if you look into that business, because that's what it is, it's
Bill Gates.
Business, 80% or more of the money that comes in goes directly to their expenses. It's worse than something like the Red Cross. I mean, hardly any of the money actually goes to people suffering in Uganda. And then
that's why they chose a guy that's probably been dead for 5-6 years. It's just totally made up.
Yeah, I mean, and then there's people on YouTube, Ugandan citizens, who are saying, what are you talking about? Nobody even talks about this guy in Uganda anymore. He's not been in the country for 6 years. He's probably dead. And our main problem now is, you know, AIDS, poverty, all this
But
stuff.
then literally people are attacking us who have trendy hair and bandanas, saying we're horrible for not wanting to get Coney, and they're literally in trendy outfits. I mean, it's like an army of zombie trendies. I mean,
saving the children by clicking like on Twitter or Facebook. That's what you threaten when you point out the hoax. They don't like it.
And then meanwhile, Angelina Jolie, who admittedly is into the occult and worships death and all this, is running around worshiping all these wars. And I mean, she's a war criminal. People are like, why is she a war criminal? Oh, man, we're in trouble, folks.
Folks,
I made the discovery about 14, 15 years ago that the whole world government was not based on money or even power, but on a final revolution to set up planetary government, cut off resources, have resource wars, and then exterminate the majority of the population. Mid-level minions are told 80 to 90% are going to be killed. Top globalist documents we've read on air say 99.9% of all humans will be exterminated. Then the 1/10 of 1% will merge with machines and populate the known universe. Now, I'm not saying any of that's real, but that's what all of the elites, from Ray Kurzweil right through the UN officials, all are obsessed with. And they write cover stories in Wired magazine like Why the Future Doesn't Need Us, with Bill Joy, who I've talked about 500 times or more, saying, I went to an elite meeting of 200 top internet company and software company and technology company owners, and all we talked about was, do we kill everybody? Or do we let everybody just play games and, you know, basically get mesmerized by entertainment and just keep breeding? Or do we just reduce population? What do we do? And the consensus is kill everybody. I mean, that's what's frustrating. This is all public. And I take it real personal. People around me are dead and dying of cancer, and I know those numbers are off the charts, thousands of percentile points. I take it real personal when I know that they're attacking children and that pediatric cancer, once unknown, is now epidemic. I take it real personal when I find out that they, for at least 50 years, have been adding chemicals to our food and water. I take it real personal, and here's the big epiphany that I want to get to for people out there, okay? Here's the point that I really want to get across to folks, and it's this. The public is becoming more and more unconscious. The brain waves are lowering into a sleep state across the board. That's not debated. All the technologies being rolled out are admittedly virtual false reality systems that program your brain and interface and project sound into your middle ear and interface directly with your neurons outside of the eyeballs, which themselves are brain stalks. You want to? They say the eye is the wonder of the soul. The eyes, during embryonic development, grow out of the brain. The eyes are brain tissue. It's brain sensors, sight sensors. The nose, olfactory, direct connection to the brain. Direct nerve into the brain. Taste, same deal. Touch, nerves, all going back into your brain. They're programming you. That's like a wireless connection when you're watching television. And very wicked, hateful people are in control. Now, I'm going to integrate the epiphany here and then go to your calls. I know that we've already seen this, you're going to see more automobile accidents. You're going to see more texting accidents, bike riders running into people, until by law, everything is going to be robotically controlled with the DARPA-run Google cars that are already being legalized nationwide and worldwide. The genetics are going to be so damaged, you're going to have to go to the elites to be able to get government authorization to have children, and then they're going to go in and change the embryo to be more subservient to the system. By the way, I told you that over a decade ago. They're now announcing it in the news, that that's what they're going to do with infertility. That's engineered. Same thing with the GMO of the crops. It is a diabolical plan beyond any science fiction you could ever imagine, and it's happening. You're about to see humanity, the family, everything completely degenerate, and then you're going to see fleets of robot drones and ground combat robots. Well, you're going to see bureaucrat bots. They already admit the robot drones are scanning the farms, not allowed to build a barn, not allowed to dig a pond, not allowed to harvest your crops, not allowed to have dust. They're going to have robot trucks. Already all the Postal Service systems are having robot systems put on them that snoop for dust and stuff around your farm. Bureaucrats everywhere, automated systems of tattling, because you see, they have to get rid of due process, because when you get rid of due process, you can automate everything. Due process, the courts, as corrupt as they are going to hold up all this. Red light cameras violate the law. It's not a sworn officer giving you the citation. There's not a court hearing. It's a fraud. They don't care. I was reading where one Illinois town is going to get thousands of red light cameras. I'm reading where all schools now, the feds are saying, have to get cameras in them because there's an epidemic of teachers raping children. You see, the teachers that are pedophiles can't even control themselves now. People that are bike riders don't even care. They just come out into 70-mile-an-hour traffic having no idea that they could be killed because they're cut off from reality. People have had their survival mechanism neutralized. And so The military is going to launch wars they can't win. The elite are going crazy. I mean, I've seen statistics of Rockefeller and Rothschild kids, the suicides, the death. I mean, it's all cursed. It's all just going to Hades. You're going to see total disintegration. I mean, I know it now. It is just going to get crazier and wilder and nuttier. Paul Watson, you got the floor till we go to break. I got you on here to cover the article. Bioethicist professor drugged the population into accepting green world order. That's at Infowars.com. 3 weeks ago, you posted the article where they openly, in prestigious bioethics journal, are calling for killing old people and babies up to age 3. The government will decide. People thought that we made that up, even though there were links to the prestigious journal. This is in the Atlantic. How engineering the human body could combat climate change. Tell folks about this article and what you think about the point I'm announcing here today.
Well, basically, this Atlantic piece announces the fact that they want to chemically castrate free will. But they say, don't worry, it'll be voluntary and not coercive, just like not vaccinating your children is voluntary. But as we know, if you don't vaccinate your children, the state, the medical establishment harasses you. People are being refused treatment, CPS sent to people's houses if they refuse to vaccinate their children. So they say, oh, yeah, it'd be voluntary, but you know, if you opt out of it, you'll be harassed to the end of your days. So they talk about making people averse to meat. They talk about, by giving them drugs, they talk about pharmacologically enhancing empathy, so people will donate to specific charities. Of course, if you follow that to its logical conclusion, that means you can manipulate them to do anything through drugs. They talk about injecting babies with embryos to make them grow smaller. Basically, they're saying, we're going to give you a choice. It's not the one-child policy. It's a more flexible version of that. You can either have one normal child, 3 enhanced, as in made smaller, tiny children, or 2 medium-sized children. So they're basically creating the framework where you have to choose one of these options. As you said, it's the state coming in and deciding how you give birth, what kind of children you give birth to. It's the one-child policy. And as we've documented before, lithium in the water supply has been promulgated through the media. Of course, Obama's White House science czar, John P. Holdren, has advocated sterilizing people forcibly to reduce global population, again, in the name of saving the planet. Back then, it was against, the coming ice age that would destroy the Earth. Now that's flipped over to global warming, and now it's flipped over again to overpopulation, which is a complete myth. So again, it's the scientific dictatorship wrapped in this trendy, liberal, touchy-feely package and sold as technological progress and advancement, when in fact it's the very essence of authoritarian, plandopolis society, a technocratic elite dictating to us how we live our lives, whereas they're completely exempt from.
Well, there's another article where Al Gore calls for a global nerd spring to force carbon taxes and all this, and that's what it is. It's like this new culture of being trendy is being stupid, giggling, arrested development, weak, unmanly, and giggling and wearing pink and green, real trendy colors, and prancing around and then supporting wars and feeling powerful. And Al Gore actually is saying this now. It's like armies of willfully pathetic, dumb chumps.
Well, it's proven more successful, hasn't it? Getting an army of Twitterers and Facebook people behind a war. I mean, it worked with Libya when the left spent months and months wailing about we need a no-fly zone over Libya. Overnight, it turned into a bombardment. Now we've got the left again pushing for a war on Syria through these fake propaganda activists that are out in the media. And again, with this Coney 2012 thing, same deal again. So it's proven more successful than just, pulling off a false flag or preemptive warfare. The modern form of warfare is this fake colour revolution style that Obama and the people who pull his strings have perfected.
Well, you're right, Paul, and that's why I said arrest Angelino, arrest